Let's go. Okay, I think we're ready to get started. We have Commissioner Wakua joining us. Can you hear us? Okay. Work sessions are an opportunity for board members to discuss issues informally with staff and invited guests. The board encourages members of the public to attend work sessions and listen to the discussion, but there's generally no opportunity for public comment. Members of the public wishing to address the board are welcome to do so during the board's regular scheduled meetings. First is the discussion of the formal agenda. Do we have any questions on what's on the agenda this evening? Okay.
I'm sure I just wanted to mention on the work session agenda, if we have time, we were going to add a discussion about the transportation bill. Since the special session will start Friday, just to talk a little bit about LC2. So,
okay. That'll be item number 4. And then we do have an executive session. Well, after we know how long that will take.
probably 10 to 15 minutes, I would imagine.
Executive.
Yeah, 10 minutes.
10 minutes. Okay, so we want to make sure we leave 10 minutes before the regular meeting for the executive session.
Just be wild.
Sure. Let's see how we do here. Okay, agenda review. So we've got the agenda going all the way out to October 22nd. Do we have any questions on that? All right. Save a little time with the agenda review and go right into the OCZMA survey, page 3.
For the members of the board, this came compliments of Commissioner Webb and I know that she and I think Commissioner Thompson might have been at the OCZMA meeting, and there's a survey to talk about what the priorities of the counties are, I think, going into the next legislative session. And so we thought it would be an opportunity to talk about what some of those might be and help the board fill out the survey to help OCZMA. As you know, OCZMA,
Oregon Coastal Zone Management.
Oregon Coastal Zone Management.
Okay.
They're now being staffed by a consultant, and it used to be AOC, and so this is part of that transition process. So. I don't know if Commissioner Webb wants to add any more detail.
Well, yeah, the committee itself is going through a complete kind of a restructuring with the staff change. The AOC has basically handed it off to a consultant who is basically a lobbyist, and he's out of the East Bay. So we've had a few months of kind of a reorganization, only meeting on Zoom, etc. And so he came up with this list, and I immediately objected because I said, wow, I got the list on Thursday and we were meeting on Monday, and I said, whoa, I'm sorry, I need time to go to my board. I have to take this to my board. And one of the things about this iteration of coastal zone management is that it includes not just elected officials, but also people from soil and water conservation districts, which I think is cool, and ports, and a few city people, a couple of city council members. So hopefully we're going to be meeting every other month. So we're back in a real nice. But the issue is that I was a little taken aback by this list.
Sure.
To Commissioner Webb's point, I had spoken, Walter Chuck and I, who's the Lincoln County Commissioner, and I had spoken with the consultant. I had recommended that he ask for input early, medium, and at the moment. He did it only at the last moment. Commissioner Chuck is very active in this, and so I hope that's an end to that kind of a way of proceeding, because I think with Commissioner Webb's input and Commissioner Chuck, that the consultant get a better idea of what meets the needs of, the members of the governing body who participate.
Commissioner Evans.
Is there anybody with levy experience on this advisory group that you're talking
With
about?
what experience?
Levy,
Oh, you mean,
levy and yeah, experience.
you know, I don't know, but I would kind of assume so. I'm not an expert on the geography of the whole coast, but I don't know. I really don't know the answer, but I'd love to find out if you'd like me to do that.
Yeah, I would, just because if we're involving soil and water, I feel like that's the other systemic, attribute that we have, particularly in our region. I don't know about other coastal zones, but I assume it goes all the way down.
So let me find out. Great. That's what I wanted to hear.
Looking at the list, so we have 10 items and we're asking for a ranking of 1 to 10.
Or additional,
Okay,
anything else that's left out, anything that you particularly want us
Right.
to be sort of on top of.
yeah, I guess I'm confused on some, because this is Oregon Coastal Zone A, so we have transit lodging tax listed as one of the
Yes.
priorities. And how does that fit into the?
Well, I think there are, as we know, there are a lot of coastal counties that are very, very interested in the TLT.
Okay,
And
so, and then, yeah, we've got disaster preparedness, water resources, port and harbor maintenance, transit lodging tax, marine reserves, fish population, habitat, blue economy, ocean rise, climate change, housing, and coastal land use plan. Which is, I thought, what OCZMA does.
pretty much,
Yeah.
pretty much. One of the things we unfortunately have, I guess I didn't give you the whole package, but I'll bring, hopefully maybe to our next meeting, I'll bring a list of the executive committee and all the members. And because I think that especially with some of the things that I don't see any of our blue economy people on the board. And
Especially since we just did that study.
well, and there's so much going on so I think we need to have some of the economic interests from fisheries.
Yeah.
So,
Is there a way to turn this into a staff question, turn it into kind of like we've done surveys in the past for strategic planning. Is there a way to turn this into a survey process for us so that we can input thoughts under each of these headings? Like to talk about bringing in, and then she can take the accumulation of our thoughts forward along with where we average out in.
We could rank them and then we could
Yeah.
also add. Categories, so we like, and then provide some
Yeah.
opportunity for comments.
And then that way she has, the ranking of the board as an entirety along with our additional.
I think that's fine. We can prepare a survey and send it out, and then you can add additional categories and then rank the ones
And I
that
like
you feel strongest.
Gives us a little time to kind of.
that'd be
And
definitely
then
one.
what is the timeline for this?
The day before yesterday.
Yeah.
It's
When is your next meeting?
it's the end of September. I think it's the end of September.
Yeah, we will get something to your board.
Yeah, I like that. You can all have an opportunity to kind of. weigh in.
And then that way we can get all the way through this and our executive session.
That's fine.
But no, that's great.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm excited that you're interested.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you bringing it. Thank you, Commissioner Wade. Thank you,
Okay.
Commissioner Dawson. Next is Transportation Safety Action Plan presentation. On page 4. And Barry. Barry Hendricks. Yeah, Terry Hendricks, Public Works Director, and Regard Apponatus, DKS Associates. I say I'm on.
You were super close and I'm
Apponatus.
Aponitis.
Apponatus. Yes. Well, welcome.
Very well done. Thank you. Good evening, Chair Gwynn, members of the commission. You remember back in October of last year, the county received a grant, a federal grant to put together a transportation safety action plan. Subsequently, we hired DKS Associates to help us in collect the information that we needed to come up with that plan. Thus far, we've had a couple task force meetings, and we're here tonight to give you an update on where we're at and to ask your help in coming up with our safety action plan vision statement. Our task force members have put together one that we believe is a good start, but we would like your impression of it and see where we go from there.
Okay.
I'll let Garth take it from there. Perfect. Thanks, Terry, and good afternoon, everybody. As Terry noted, I wanted to do two things, just kind of give you an overview of the process and what we're doing so far, what it's going to look like over the next year. And then focus a little bit on the vision statement that's been drafted, see if there's any other changes or modifications. The vision statement, along with the rest of the plan, would be adopted concurrently about a year from now, in fall of next year.
Right.
Oh, there we go. All right. So as Terry mentioned, all this work's coming out of the federal grant as part of the Safe Streets for All program. And so as part of this transportation safety action plan that we're conducting, really there's three key things we're trying to do. At the end of it, we want to save lives, first and foremost. In order to save lives, we want this work to help guide some future investments, so as money, partner funding, grant opportunities become available, we have a game plan for how we would use those in order to save lives. And then also the completion of this plan sets us up for being eligible for additional funding down the road from both the federal and state standpoint. So really, those are at a very high level the three really key objectives we're trying to do. The Safe Streets for All process, again, as part of a federal grant, there are key criteria and key processes we have to go through. One of the things Terry mentioned, we've got a task force that we've been meeting with. We have a very data-driven process. I'll talk about that a little bit. There's some other items and requirements in there too, but I want to point back up to the first one, which is the leadership commitment to a zero goal. And so that's what we'll be talking about as part of the vision statement. And there's certainly flexibility about how the county words that statement for something that you can get behind and support. But that is one of the key components that we need to get through as well. All right, so just a high level from the process and schedule. These 5 points are really broken down by the key milestones that we'll be meeting with the task force through this process. The task force is made up of a couple dozen individuals representing various entities around the county. There's representatives from some of the local communities, law enforcement and emergency response, some school district staff, and a variety of other hats that people wear as well. Our most recent meeting earlier in the month, we reviewed with them some of the transportation data that we've gone through and looked at from the last 5 years. We'll be sharing a glimpse of that tonight. We're going to be going back to them in December as we start to hone in on what some of the key corridors are really high priority that we want to try to address through this process. And then back in the spring, we'll be going to the task force again, as well as reaching out to the public as we are now, to get some more feedback on specific strategies and some of the projects that we're identifying through this process. This will accumulate in fall of next year as we put together the entire plan, as well as a monitoring process to set up for that. And we'll be coming back to you all for that when we get there. I just wanted to touch on, we do have a project website. It's also linked on the county's website. We were actually just down at an event at the Seaside Farmers Market. I should have brought a couple of the hand flyers we had. We could have passed those out. But the website is up. We're trying to collect public comment through October 10th. In addition to the website, as I noted, we're holding some of these in-person events. We were at the county fair back on the 2nd. We're looking at a return to school event next week at Napa. And then we're also looking at other opportunities through the month of September and into early October. That will include a combination of some in-person events where we may have a table and other resources. In other cases, we'll be using social media and reaching out to the various communities through those methods. All right, I've just got a really high level at some of the data that we've been looking at. As I mentioned, as part of the Safe Streets for All program, looking at data and using the actual data is one piece of the puzzle that we're required to do. It's not everything. We also want to be sure we're reaching out to the community and hearing about concerns, close calls, some of those things that don't always show up in a crash or in a fatality. At a very high level, there's comprehensive statewide crash data. We're looking at every road throughout the county. Doesn't matter if the county has jurisdiction of the roadway, if ODOT has jurisdiction of the roadway for the city. We're looking at all the roads. We want to collectively understand where those needs are. So that's all these summaries are based on all the roads. When it gets down to it on an annual average, there's about 650 crashes a year. 37 of those result in serious injuries, and 11 of those result in fatalities. That's an average over the last 5 years, as you can imagine. There's some variation year to year. Although 2020 was lower, as you recall, during the early pandemic periods, there's a lot less travel on roadways. So that's the reason for that. The other thing I want to point out too is that as we look at all the crashes that are occurring, the frequency that those crashes result in a serious injury or a fatality is generally increasing. So that's an unfortunate trend. From 2022 to 2023, there was a slight downtick in that, but just generally overall in the 5-year period, it has been increasing. As we look across the county and where those, and now we're going to, over on the left, this is looking at all the crashes. Over on the right, the KA crashes, those are just the serious injury and the fatalities. By roadway jurisdiction, it's a fairly similar pattern though. About 3/4 of everything is happening on a state roadway. I want to point out those state roadways, the darker gray, those are the big three of US 20, US 26, and 101. But also in kind of at the 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock up there, that lighter teal, those are some of the regional or district road highways as well. So those are some of the roads that we don't always think about as being ODOT facilities. A lot of people think that they're county facilities. They're not, they're highways. But those are on the list as well. So again, that's just kind of for informational, but we are looking at all the roadways regardless of jurisdiction. Oops. That's an important slide. We'll go back to that one. I can. Maybe. All right. So what it boils down to is we have a lot of detail on all these different crash records, and there's a lot of ways of cross-tabulating the data, filtering, sorting, comparing trends. So what we're looking at is what are the characteristics that seem like they're popping up more often? What are characteristics that tend to be shared between serious injury and fatal crashes? What the chart here shows, this is actually in that really dark green, that's for Clatsop County, and then the golden color is for the statewide. These are just comparing a variety of different crash attributes. So as you can see down at the very bottom, for the roadway or lane departure crashes, that's happening in 57% of Clatsop County's serious injuries and fatality crashes. The state of Oregon as a whole, that happens in 41%. So that's a characteristic that's more prevalent in the county.
Just a quick question. So we're getting rumble strips basically on our major highway system. On Highway 30. I'm curious, are we gonna do continuation of this research past 2023 to see if adding rumble strips would reduce that lane departure?
And we'll get into that, but in short, yes, as part of this program, we're required to set up some performance measures in the monitoring process. And so those haven't been selected yet, but as we look at the types or the characteristics that we're trying to correct,
Mhm.
those could be ones that are identified, and so we could be monitoring those better. Yeah. So that's one. Another one, second from the bottom, crashes involving alcohol or drugs statewide, it's 22%. In the county, it's 36%. So just informational only, there's some different comparisons there. The key thing is though, and there's a lot of other characteristics that we've looked at are available. Those are some of the more interesting ones. But across all the different characteristics, there's a few different ways we looked at them. This is one of the ways. Where is it more prevalent in the county than statewide? The other way we looked at is where is a characteristic contributing to a high proportion of those fatalities for serious injuries? And then another one we were looking at is where is it more likely that this is, where is it disproportionate that there's more of these characteristics resulting in a fatality or serious injury than a property damage only or less severity. So we looked at various different ways. Essentially, there's 5 key things we've identified. We're going to be focusing on these going forward. One of those is roadway and lane departure. How do we best address and correct those? Nighttime crashes, obviously you can't change the time of day and people need to travel at nighttime, but what can we do to lessen the likelihood that a crash is going to occur that leads to somebody losing their life or having a severe injury at nighttime? How can we address some of the risky behaviors? Those might be drug or alcohol, other distracted behaviors or speeding. How can we better protect pedestrians?
We're gonna be interrupting for questions.
Yes,
Well, I know, but, here's what I want to, it's not getting, no, it's your thing. I've been involved in traffic safety at the state level and regional level and the local level for quite a while. One of the positions I have is on the Jurisdictional Transfer Advisory Committee for Oregon Highways. So what I'm looking for, I know that there are other commissioners who have concerns about safety, but I really want the commissioners to have the opportunity to be involved with this, because this is really literally life and death. And I've got now some access in some various venues. If you can identify some needs that we have and some remediation that could happen, please involve the commissioners so that we can help you get some money to address those.
That's the end game of, one of the end games of all this. There will be a list of high injury network that will come out of it. And how can we address some of these? Some of them will be very expensive. Some of them will be pretty simple, maybe just signage would take care of it. But that's the end game of this. And so we have to go through this process in order to come up with that network. And so we've identified these 5 emphasis areas that out of everything you see on the screen there, in order to move forward and see what we can do about those 5 areas. We had to narrow it down so that we can actually do something.
So I appreciate the end game. What I'm saying, and I want to give a strong signal, is that I'd like to be involved in the process. So I appreciate that going forward.
understand.
Thank you.
How so? How do you want to be involved?
Yeah, I want to know when the meetings are so that I can attend them. I want to be able to get community input and provide community input. I want to be able to talk to the people
On behalf of the commission?
No, as a District 5 commission.
Oh,
Remember we had those 3 fatalities in the same family in that 6 months, and that still looms large in the community. I mean, there are problems all over you know that, and Highway 101 and Highway 26 are in my district, which is the Southern Hamilton County, so it's a big area. And the relationship of the traffic safety with the fire departments, as rural fire protection district, is another essential part. I like to work with those fire chiefs to see what I can do to support their work as well.
Thank you. Commissioner Bang.
I was just curious, the nighttime crashes, does that also incorporate wildlife? Car versus wildlife?
I'll have to, we can check that specific thing and provide a summary back. I don't know that offhand, but we do have the ability to check that.
I just feel like our elk population might play a heavy part, especially in both east and south County. In regards to the inflated number right there for nighttime.
And so,
Okay, Commissioner Webb.
Could we, will that include the cities as well? Because, I live in an intersection in the city of Astoria that is a particularly difficult intersection. And in the 10 years I've been there, I think we've had 5 deer hit and killed in, downtown Astoria.
A lot of it may depend on how fully they filled out the information for the accident, and if it was even reported. A lot of the deer accidents that happen within the city are never reported.
Oh, that's interesting to know. Have we talked to the Astoria Police about that? Or Public Works or whatever name was that?
Well, talking with Lieutenant Hazenkamp when he was here at our last task force meeting, he was explaining that some of the minor incidents like that never get reported. And so what we're looking at is serious accidents and the fatality. Seeing what we can do for those. But the answer for all the information they're collecting is countywide, but then they're also breaking out information for each individual city so that they can take the results of this and then utilize it in their transportation system plan.
Good.
So
Excellent.
it should help everybody.
Yeah. Thank you.
yeah, thank you for pointing that out, Terry. So that is something that we're including in the plan. There's similar summaries that we provided for the different communities. Just for time, we're just focusing on countywide, but in addition to those 5 key characteristics or trends that we're noticing being very prevalent countywide, we are also looking based on the data and based on the input we're receiving at specific locations within the county as well. And so we're doing evaluation looking at based on the frequency of the crashes, the frequency of fatalities on different segments of roadway. And that's really this next process we're going to be getting into, like go to the next slide, hopefully. The next step that we're going to, as right now we've gone through this initial evaluation and summary of the data. It's back about forward. Oh, here we go. So we've been collecting some public feedback, but we're going to take all these things together. We're going to take the data we've analyzed. We're going to take this public feedback. We're going to put a little bit more focus on those 5 key areas that we've identified where there's really prevalence happening across the county. And as Terry noted, we're going to identify the high injury network across the county. From that, we're going to put together a game plan of strategies, programs, projects that we would use to address those over the years with a long-term goal of significantly reducing fatalities and serious injuries. As Terry noted, hopefully be a mix of things that are easier to implement, maybe lower cost. There could be some strategies or some programs or things we're working with partner agencies on. Some of those might be higher cost capital improvements as well, but it'll be a menu of things to help address this all. And then back to the question from earlier, as part of the final document, there'll be a performance monitoring process. So going forward, we can monitor the effectiveness of this all. So that is a really high level look at the entire process. I will note too, in the I think we had a short memo that we had sent out with materials. if you want, there is a link to the website there. So you can go to the website, share it with friends and others. There's a survey on the website. There's also a comment map where you can identify locations of concern. Again, some of these things show up in the data, some of them don't. I mean, near misses are a thing, so we want to be sure we capture that.
I see Commissioner Wakula.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, gentlemen, for the presentation. I just want to say I had a question about the wildlife as well. And I would think that when it comes to deer, we're talking about serious and fatal, like you mentioned. So a lot of times when I would think, unfortunately, a low impact deer accident wouldn't need to be reported and a driver would probably just drive off. But an elk at 55 miles an hour is going to be a different story where the car can't drive. I did have a question regarding your the graph. When you look at data for, like, for example, the crashes involving alcohol and or drugs were 14% over the county. And then you look at roadway departures, is when you're inputting your data into these scenarios, is there data that's represented multiple times across these fields? Meaning, like,
Yes.
if you have like a drunk driver who crossed the lane, are they represented in both the alcohol bar as well as the roadway lane departure?
Yeah, yes, as well as if it occurred at night. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So theoretically, I mean, like, if you could attribute that, 10%, us being as a county, 10% being over the state threshold, if that 10% was correlated to a 10% increase in drunk drivers or drug use, and that is your fundamental issue, then that would be a focal point to help narrow it down on what the root cause of the issue was, right?
Yes, and again, for brevity, I've left out a lot of the information we shared with the task force, but one of the key strategies of the program too is it's a multifaceted approach where we're not going to engineer our way out of every fatality and every serious injury. And so there's a variety of strategies we'll be looking at. Back to your point about the root cause, there are other characteristics. How can we address all those? Because if we can fix any one of those might help eliminate that fatality. So again, apologies. This is a very, very brief overview, but I certainly do appreciate your point of the root cause. We'll be looking at those as well as other things that we can try to address, whether it be through engineering, educational programs, other treatments or programs. I mean, there's a big toolbox. That toolbox will be sharing probably in the spring.
I appreciate that. In my world of trauma, we look at we basically get involved from the moment the traumatic injury happens all the way through the care of that patient post-trauma. And we look at how we can prevent that trauma. There was a counter hospital, I believe in a different state, that was looking at one of the most dangerous corridors of their stretch of highway. And what they found is in trying to demonstrate the fatalities, they were limited by the information that their state police were actually reporting, because not all accidents were captured and reported to their police agencies. And so you have a significant amount that get underreported and are not quantified in this data as well. So I'd be really excited to see that other information. I mean, this goes into my realm of like what I actually have a passion for, which is trauma and then helping care for people and preventing trauma. So very interesting stuff. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Walker.
All right, so I just have a couple lead-in slides to the vision statement, and then we'll talk about that. All right. Yeah. Oh, there we go. All right. So as I noted, having a vision statement that essentially supports getting towards the elimination or significant reduction in severe injuries and fatalities, something that's required as part of this program. So there's really two key things. There's a lot of words there. There's two key things. Number one, we need a governing body supporting that. That's you guys. And then number two, there is some flexibility. It's either setting a target date to reach zero or setting a target to achieve a significant decline. So you can say, oh, well, we want to get to an eventual goal of zero. You can say that, or I'll share what the task force came up with is the latter, which is looking at a significant decline by a specific year.
That's more realistic.
So, and we know all this stuff, it's pretty ambitious. But again, it acknowledges specifically, again, being realistic or not. Getting towards zero is difficult, but I think we collectively would support it.
Yeah.
We understand it's very difficult. This is the kind of thing that could encourage culture change. And it could help support some of those actions, take those big steps to get there too. So just a little lead in. So, the statement that the task force came up with is that what is showing there in bold. Clatsop County is committed to the belief that no traffic fatalities or serious injuries are acceptable. As part of this commitment, the county has established an interim goal to reduce fatalities and serious injuries by 35% by 2035, while continually working towards ultimate goal of zero. I'll also note, as said at the bottom, there was some discussion within the task force that noting that there could be a campaign around this 35 by 35, which might help garner additional support. There was some excitement around there. So, any thoughts, discussion on that? Again, that's what the task force has come up with. We actually took a couple different meetings to discuss it. We refined it at the last meeting. But would love to hear your thoughts.
Commissioner Thompson.
So if we said Clatsop County commits to reducing fatalities and serious injuries by 35% by 2035, working toward the ultimate goal of zero. Just take out a bunch of the words, because I think this whole body has repeatedly expressed its support for making progress in that. Size is clear. Well, you don't agree. You can see that. You can hear me. I can hear you. Yes, just one.
Okay, Commissioner Banks, then Commissioner, and then Commissioner Buckley.
In regards to the vision statement, I think it is excellent as is. I feel like this task force is extremely passionate about their goal and giving them creative license in the vision statement. While it says the same thing that Commissioner Thompson just reiterated. I love the 35 by 35. I think that is extremely marketable. I am hopeful that the information that you're sharing with us, that you're also, and I think if I recall correctly, you are sharing it with school districts, is that correct? Okay, because this would be very beneficial, especially the drug and alcohol involvement would be very beneficial information for them for grant writing purposes in order to get some alcohol or drug intervention into their school districts. And even though the teens, I just want to make note on your graph, the teens are doing a good job driving. And so I'm really proud of our county teams for being a lower instance than the rest of the state. Yeah, the rest of the state of Oregon. But yeah, those are my thoughts.
Commissioner Webb?
I'm sorry, I don't agree. I think that 35 by 35 is completely meaningless. How many fatalities do we have last year?
If you go back to the graph, it sounds about right. It's been about 11 on average.
Well, to me, the average, to me, 35 by 35 is, I don't know what it means. And if I saw it in something without an explanation, I think it would be meaningless. I also think it's a little too cutesy for the, 10 years, etc. Without a statistical analysis. I think it's meaningless. I would also like Commissioner Thompson, I would like to have a list of all of the, first of all, I'd like to know who's on the task force. I'd like a list of the task force members. I think it's up to us to ensure that the people we think ought to be on it are on it. I would also like a list of the meetings and the places of the meetings of the task.
Our first two meetings we've had here, seems to, on Thursday, the first one we had at 6 o'clock, 6 to 8 o'clock at night, suggested that we try 4 to 6. That we had the same attendance for that one as well. We have not set a tentative date other than December as we run into the third task force meeting. So, yeah, you know, we're trying to coordinate 24 to 25 different people on any one night, and Thursday night seems to be the best night. Trying to find, you know, it's unfortunate, but trying to find a night where we can get 24 people and the commissioners together because of your schedule may not always be possible.
Well, the important thing for me, I don't, is that people ask me about things like, well, there's a meeting coming up on, and what am I supposed to say? Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know anything about that. You know, well, you're really, no, I'm sorry, that makes us look very bad, not knowing what's going on.
Well, as soon as we set the date, we will make sure that everybody's notified.
Okay. And as I say, I would like a list of all the members of the task force. The other thing, I hope that, are we gonna, is all of this data on the website?
No,
It's not all up there yet, but we'll be getting it up there probably by the end of this month.
Oh,
Actually,
great.
This week.
That's this
It
weekend.
might actually be that next week. There were a couple comments we were addressing based on the task force feedback, but yeah, the data's up there, and also with the website and the comment map feature, I believe you're able to see comments that others have left, so that if you want to either add to them or maybe point out something that they missed, there's that possibility too.
That's wonderful. I would love to see that. Would love to see that. And you know, to use the website as the repository of kind of the project and what's going on is very cool, very easy, much easier for us. So thank you. This looks very promising. I think it's very exciting. And also make sure you're handing out flyers and things. Please make sure we have copies of those.
I'll get them to you next week.
Yeah, just email us, fine, but.
Well, I mean, this is information. I mean, this is process, this is in progress, project. And we have a lot of volunteers that are involved, and I appreciate that we've got that number of volunteers in the case. I certainly don't want to be micromanaging every task force committee that is doing something in this county. I'm a little wary of this. We have to find out. I mean, I think it's very fair to know who's on the task force. I don't think we need to be attending meetings and guiding things. I think this is what the task force does, and
I'm not
they back at us for recommendations, and then we can certainly weigh in. I think the vision statement is a good one. Might not like the campaign slogan, but that's another thing. I mean, the vision statement seems to make a lot of sense to me. Commissioner Wakua.
Thank you, Chair. So first off, I like the vision statement. I think it's clear, it's precise, and essentially what you do with this information, or what you've done with this information, is what I do with trauma in a hospital setting. I look at the data and statistics. I set an achievable goal or slightly unachievable goal, but something that you can work towards. And then once you hit that benchmark of, say, 35%, then you move the benchmark to 25%. And it gives you a goal. That way you're working towards something, but not setting an unrealistic precedence. To say 0% is unrealistic. So I have no issues with the vision statement. I think what you've done here is great. It borders with what I do. Just food for thought, in that thought that I mentioned before with the corridor from the representative that was speaking regarding accidents. They use their data on a digital billboard when you entered that corridor to say the statistics. 9 people have died on this highway in the last 12 months. And that data was updated since it was a digital billboard. Not to say that the task force would do this, but it's an idea to make people aware when they're driving in, this area, that it is a dangerous area, that stuff happens. It's about bringing awareness, which I think your vision statement does. And that's just another way to achieve it. Not to say it's the way, but just food for thought. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the discussion, appreciate the work. This is good information. And we're gonna have another meeting and they'll be coming back to us, so we do appreciate it. I think we're gonna have to move on to the next item. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
I just say this is the vision. There's language in this. This is what.
Right, that's why we have a task force. That's why they're. Okay. Next, Transportation Bill LC2. And I'm afraid it's gonna be,
Executive session for the meeting.
We can have the executive
Yeah.
session after the meeting real quick. I don't think it'll take more than 5 and 10
okay,
minutes. Amanda, you're welcome to come up if you want. Thank you. We just wanted to have a little opportunity to talk about LC2, which is the transportation bill. That'll be the subject of Fridays through probably Monday's special session. As your board is aware, there's a number of things that are trying to be accomplished in the bill, some on the administrative side, some on the revenue generation side, some on the accountability side. But all of it ultimately to generate additional revenues for ODOT, the counties, and the cities. Just as a little background, the revenue generation side really focuses on registration fees, the gas tax, which would increase from 40 cents to 46 cents, title fees, and then some program fees that go along with the EV program. And then also an important thing for at least our local transportation, mass transit agencies, is a doubling of the employee payroll tax for the STIF that supports mass transit providers and that would go from 0.1 to 0.2%. And there's some other features of the LC2. We've sent some of those materials to your board recently, including what the revenue impacts are on the county. And so, but what it generally means to the county, so this is the 30% of the 100%. It generally would fall between 1.2 and 1.3 million dollars per year in additional road fund monies. So those are additional monies that would be available for the maintenance of the county system. Cities within the county would also get additional resources, and it varies, from probably the high of around 200,000 for the city of Astoria to 50,000 for some of the smaller cities.
Don, can I ask?
Sure.
How are funds calculated for the counties and cities? I mean, are
So
they,
it's just 30% and 20% of the additional revenues generated. So,
oh,
30, 20.
yeah, so,
no matter the population or the number?
well, how they're distributed is based upon population, but the actual revenue generated, and then 50% goes to ODOT, 30% goes into the county pot, and 20% goes to the city pot. And then there's formulas that distribute it to those individual agencies.
Okay,
Yeah.
but what is it based on? Is it population? Is it road miles? Is it?
I think the vehicle registration.
Could be vehicle registration.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So there's gonna be a public hearing Friday. The public hearings really started on Tuesday. I think it was Tuesday. I
Yeah.
lost track of time.
Or Monday.
Was it Monday, Tuesday? And so Friday would be the next public hearing. I think that likely the special session will last until at least Monday. It could last longer than that, but that's if everything goes well. I think there's a point where the longer that it lasts, the less likely chance of it being successful, but I just wanted to let you know that, you know, we're obviously watching it. We are, we have, our lobbyist, CFM down there watching it. I know that some of your board members have probably heard from different entities asking what your thoughts are. And so we wanted just to answer any questions that your board might have, or if your board wants to take any position on it, that's obviously possible too, so.
Yeah, and I had asked for this because I have been asked, but we want to weigh in during the public hearing on what's been proposed. I know that there's been some alternative talk of going to the emergency fund and using that for operations and maintenance. It sounds like that will leave capital projects empty, and we don't have that money then for projects that are already underway here in Placer County.
Yeah, and if I might add, Chair, I think one of the biggest, you know, issues is that, you know, District 1 is significantly impacted by the reductions in workforce. I mean, we certainly heard about it, you know, with the drawbridge team, but, you know, 15 positions are really Clatsop County tied. And so there's no doubt that the level of maintenance, winter maintenance, summer maintenance, spring maintenance, is going to be significantly decreased if there's no additional revenues coming into ODOT. And so, you know, that's a concern for all of us, because obviously 26, 30, 101, major problem areas during inclement weather, and having ODOT support is really important and vital. So, so I think that the fact that we are so significantly impacted, you know, is a consideration. I'm also thinking about the STIF, because there's a lot of rural mass transit agencies right now that are under reduction scenarios actively, and, you know, doubling the payroll, which in the original bill that didn't pass during the long session, they were gonna, that bill included tripling the STIF, so this doubles it. But that will make a big difference for these rural mass transit agencies, and we really don't want to see a repeat of what we saw, you know, a year or so ago, 2 years ago. So anyhow, that's just some of the framework, is that we are going to be majorly impacted if something doesn't happen. But, you know, it's a political decision, certainly not something that that the county is going to have a lot of influence, because there's statewide implications for this. So
We've got a payroll tax, we've got the registration fees,
title
what it
fees,
title fees, what it means for Placer County, is the 15 jobs in the district. Potentially, it's 1.2 million in the real fund, and it's doubling the STIP for Sunset Empire Transit and for others. And that would be, again, not something that would be long-term. This is something that would be half of what they had proposed at the last session. So they would have to be coming back for something else in 2027.
and I think that's the big unknown.
That's the big unknown.
Right now, is that, you know, dealing with the maintenance issues and having to be half of the ask that didn't pass during the long session. But there's still a lot of uncertainty, and there'll be a lot of controversy moving forward about the capital project side and what's on that capital project list, and what's the cost, and how we fund those major projects. So this won't be the end of the story, obviously. It's just part of the story. So
Any discussion? No, we only got a few minutes, but folks feel about.
Well, I mean, I feel that we need to stay on top of this on Friday.
we are, I mean,
And so, I mean, what? I mean, Friday's gonna be a very long day in Salem. and it seems like we ought to be making a statement.
Yeah, well, what would that statement be?
Depends on what goes on. I mean, let's see what's. I mean, is there gonna be any massaging of this?
I guess that's what
We don't know. I mean,
see.
yeah, we're
next
gonna
week,
find out. I think,
the weekend.
yeah, it just depends. I mean, I think that it's too early. I mean, this is the latest version and we don't know. I mean, I would assume that there's gonna be a little give and take like most legislative processes, but we're not sure. And so I think, it's gonna be something that, if the county or the majority of the board wanted to support the statement, I mean, I think it would just be, because this is gonna move quickly. And there's not gonna be a lot of other public testimony opportunities except for Friday, potentially. And so, it's just not set up as a more typical, process. And so I think that if the board wants to weigh in, we certainly can, but I think that would be weighing in sooner than later, and submitting testimony probably before Friday. So.
And I mean, we could go over the impacts and what we see.
Well, I can talk now or not?
Yes, I have something to say about that.
Well, I don't want to.
Well, no,
No. Okay, Commissioner Banks, go ahead. Go ahead.
Not, I disagree with the whole process, and I disagree with the allocation of the funding for the capital projects and the inflation that has occurred over the last decade in those capital projects. The impacts to our trucking agencies, our like distribution of goods and services is going to be greatly impacted by the increase. So I guess I personally, if the rest of the Board of Commissioners as a majority wishes to have a statement, I'm gonna be withholding because if we were an agency that this was this far out of bounds and lost $1 billion somewhere, you better believe people would be hot on our tail to get that figured out. And so giving more money to an agency that hasn't had any checks and balances just makes me a little nauseous. I would prefer to have funds come from, a different location as checks and balances than had a chance to occur. We have had no promises about getting 15 more employees, 0 promises about all of those employees being able to return. And we've also been burned in the butt by this office, this administration, saying that they're going to come to the table and help us out after removing our timber funds. That's yet to occur. And so I guess I'm a little bit leery of just approving handing over more money to a failing agency. And so if we were failing in this manner, I guarantee people would be after us. I guarantee somebody was going to try to recall one of us if we were failing in this manner. And so to have this agency failing and this administration struggling, I don't know.
Thank you.
I thought she
Correct, Council.
brought something to say. So I understand the consternation and the concerns about where we are now. What I see is that this is a political firefight. Regardless of any shortcomings or deficiencies, any place in the executive branch, with those ODOT workers that need to have jobs so they can go out and do the work that needs to happen for people in Clatsop County. I think we can shore up administrative practices and accountability. I think we need to do that, but I think I want to stand for supporting this proposal is going through because we need to keep the roads taken care of in Clatsop County for people, for goods, for services, to maintain our economy and our lives.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. Commissioner Walker, did you want to comment?
Sorry, I was muted. No, I have nothing to add to this.
Okay. Commissioner Webb?
Yeah, I thought I heard this morning on the radio that the Oregon Truckers Association has supported this.
I did hear that.
This. So,
They testified on Monday or Tuesday or whatever it was.
and that really, I mean, that impacts my decision. that I worked a lot with the truckers in Salem and, they usually. And they're not automatic, they really do consider the economics.
Yes. Amanda, do you have anything you wanted to?
I was just gonna say the LC1 version didn't include, the association's concerns, and so that was part of getting more interest holders on board. Was, I think, the weight level, issues.
That's always
recognized
there.
that LC2
Yeah, it's always there.
Okay, well, we have run over time, so we're gonna have to transition to the regular meetings, but, I know whatever statement we make, we probably won't be unanimous. We can put something together, see if, you know,
In that statement,
look at it.
I request, the. I guess a direction of please consider. Reallocating from your capital projects, because ODOT has been pretty open about the fact that the legislature approved. Reallocation away from certain capital projects, it would free up.
Okay. Yeah, we can talk
Yeah,
more
we can talk.
and just kind of continue the conversation.
Okay. Are we ready?
We're unmuted.
The Board of Commissioners, as the governing body of Clatsop County, all county service districts, words are hard, service districts for which this body so acts, and as the Clatsop County Local Contract Review Board is now meeting in regular session, we shall begin with the flag salute.
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You okay? I got lots.
I don't want to interrupt them. Can we go ahead and move with the roll call?
Chair Quila,
Excused.
Vice Chair Banks,
Here?
Commissioner Wakua,
Excused.
and Commissioner Webb,
Here?
Commissioner Thompson.
I'm here.
Okay. Excellent. We've all had a chance to review the agenda. Are there any questions or comments? I'd hear a motion.
Madam Chair, move to adopt the agenda as presented. I second.
Okay, all those in well, it has been moved and seconded. I'm sorry, I'm shaking. It's cold. It has been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify with an aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion passes. Whew. Moving into a proclamation, National Preparedness Month proclamation on page 9. Our presenter, Jen Munson. Excellent. Community Engagement Coordinator, welcome.
Good evening. Thank you, Commissioners. I am joined by Sarah Botmal, I believe, virtually, who will be speaking today about our Clatsop Alerts campaign and some of the work that we're doing with Everbridge. But I'll go ahead and get started.
Jen.
Good evening. I am Jen Munson, Clatsop County Emergency Management Community Engagement Coordinator. Thank you for having me. This September, for National Preparedness Month, Clatsop County Emergency Management is launching a public awareness campaign as our theme. And that's to encourage residents to sign up for or update their Clatsop Alerts emergency notification accounts. This campaign is about more than just boosting numbers, though. It's about making sure our community is truly ready for the next emergency. And that requires collaboration. We're grateful to work alongside regional partners, elected officials such as yourselves, and agencies like the Oregon Department of Emergency Management. One of the key reasons this campaign has value is due to what we learned during the last tsunami advisory incident in late July. We discovered that many residents' contact information in the system was outdated. People therefore expected to receive alerts, but didn't receive them, often because their records weren't current. And I'm speaking to email addresses, phone numbers, and other information of the like. That information does need to be updated regularly, every 6 months, as you would go to the dentist, maybe get your tires filled, get your maintenance done on your car. It's just the same in Everbridge. So we're using this campaign to clarify furthermore how Clatsop Alerts works. It's not a broadcast system that sends everything to everyone regardless of relevance. Instead, you'll only get an alert if an emergency directly affects a registered address that you have chosen in your account. And you can select up to 5 addresses. Wow. You may conduct business in 5 parts of the county. Grandmother may go to the Astoria Senior Center in Astoria. Your children may be at daycare in Gearhart. All of those addresses can be input into your Everbridge and Clatsop Alerts accounts. That way, it's targeted, relevant, and timely information. It's not spammy. We will not spam you. That's an important distinction we want the public to understand and trust. The campaign will wrap with a countywide test alert for the Great Shakeout, as you may know, earthquake drill, October 16th at 10:16 a.m. And this allows everyone who's signed up to verify their settings before and ensure that they're ready to receive critical information when it matters most. So we're asking you to partner with us, let Clatsop County residents know to stay informed, stay safe, and sign up. And I want to turn it over to Sarah now, who is our Everbridge luminary, who will speak a bit to our work with Clatsop Alerts as well as our upcoming campaign. Thank you, Sarah.
Sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, we
thank
can.
you. All right, perfect. Illuminary is a new description. I love it. Thanks so much, Jen. Yeah, nice to meet you. I am Sarah Botmal. I'm a technical account manager for Everbridge, but I've been contracted by the state of Oregon as a dedicated resource to the Oregon Alert program. So Oregon Alert was established in 2021, and my role in making that program successful is to work with the counties, tribes, and state agencies in Oregon, ensuring that they are onboarded and implemented successfully. I provide them direct ongoing training for them and all of their municipalities and dispatchers, et cetera. We work on workflow analysis, live alerting assistance, post-event analysis, and, after action summaries. So these are all things that I do to help the program be successful and to help counties like Clatsop County continue to grow in their alerting program. So if you're unfamiliar with Oregon Alert, I would encourage all of you to go to oralert.gov and learn more about that program. You can also find your local alerting authority and register for emergency alerts. But I will tell you, I'm proud to say Oregon Alert is trending nationally for its public alerting structure. Oregon Alert's mission statement, I'm just going to read it very briefly, is to ensure access to timely and informative alerts, warnings, and notifications through implementation of a statewide system that enables state, county, city, and tribal governments to issue alerts and warnings, providing people in Oregon with meaningful opportunities to make life safety decisions in the face of emergencies. So not only is the program's goal to help keep the community members of Oregon safe and educated, but they also want to create accessible and affordable alerting platform, right? So they want consistent messaging, consistent training, and resources statewide that can be shared across all counties, tribes, and state agencies. Through Everbridge, Oregon Alert offers things like hosted opt-in portals, right? This is what Jen's referring to, where your community members can go and keep their own information up to date. They can voluntarily register for alert subscriptions that are of interest to them and turn those on and off as their desires change. They have access to anonymous keyword or zip code subscriptions. They can be recipients of iPause alerts, right? Similar to like our Amber Alert or those scrolling bars across the bottom of your TV. And most of all, through Everbridge, we're offering all of the Oregon Alert participants dynamic message sending capabilities, as well as round-the-clock support. So in this endeavor, Clatsop County has proven to be a really committed Oregon Alert participant, and that just warms my heart. I spend a lot of time with Clatsop County, and I enjoy my time with Clatsop County. They are actively engaged in weekly wellness checks, training sessions. They are the first to evaluate their own areas for improvement, and they're constantly inquiring about other counties' lessons learned and the resources that they're using to become stronger. So they're very curious by nature and very driven to continue to grow and be better. I know that Clatsop is dedicated to developing policy, procedure, and matrix, so they're streamlining their alerting protocols. They're also really amazing at engaging local emergency response partners. So I've had several inquiries from other counties around the state inquiring about Clatsop County, like how are they engaging their municipal partners, right? How are they getting their cities involved? What about emergency response personnel? What about their water providers and districts, right? That's an area where Clatsop is really excelling. As a result of this proclamation and this campaign to move forward, I anticipate peers to look to Clatsop County for their campaign tips and their governance ideas as well in the near future. So I think that'll fully come to fruition. So I guess I just, in closing, want to stress that public campaigns are crucial to effective emergency alerting. Your public reach is only as good as your data, and it's only as good as the tools that you choose to use, right? And that's why letting people know, hey, we're still here. You can count on us, but we have to know how to reach you in order to do that, right? So like Jen said, anyone can get online any time of the year, any time of the day, and update those addresses that they care about. They can have 5 addresses per profile. They can go to your member portal and have your current alerts translated in up to 136 languages. And then, as I said before, we're also allowing them to manage their own subscriptions so that we're mitigating any chance of fatigue and we're enhancing that inquisitive nature where they want to stay informed of what's going on. So other counties in the program have seen huge success with campaigning. I would say Deschutes is probably in the lead of that. Once a year, they send out a campaign through all the channels, right? They do social media and news and radio, and they say, hey, on this date, we're going to reach out and we're gonna show you what it's like to get an alert. We're going to send a test emergency alert. Make sure that we have your data ahead of time. And they are actually tracking how many people are getting in there and updating their information, how many people are registering as a brand new recipient, and they get about 5,000 new users every year that they do this. Now, I know Deschutes County is rapidly growing, but those are huge numbers, and they've seen really big success on their call results and how effective they are at reaching people. Multnomah County is doing countywide IPAWS alerts. Lincoln County is really good at continuing to educate community members on where to go when they're in doubt, right? Go to our member portal to make sure that you're getting a validated form of the alert, right? So you have a lot of peers that have been very successful in these public campaigns. And again, I have no doubt that Clatsop County is going to be equally or more so successful. So in closing, I'm thrilled to be of ongoing assistance to Clatsop County in anything that you need in your campaign. And I really commend the resources that you've dedicated, such as Jen Munson and Justin Gibbs. They put a lot of time and energy into this alerting program, and I am confident your community is going to benefit because of it. So if you have any questions, I'm here to answer.
Do we have any comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, I just want to say thank you so much. What a wonderful presentation, and I would concur. We have a wonderful emergency management department. Motion?
Madam Chair, I would move to approve the resolution and order proclaiming September 2025 to be National Preparedness Month and authorize the chair to read, then sign the proclamation.
Second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the resolution and order proclaiming September 2025 to be National Preparedness Month and authorize the chair to read, then sign the proclamation. In the matter of proclaiming, September 2025 to be National Preparedness Month. Whereas National Preparedness Month was created by Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, and is observed each September to encourage individuals and communities to take proactive steps to prepare for emergencies. And whereas preparedness significantly increases the ability of individuals, families, and communities to respond to and recover from disasters of all types. And whereas Clatsop County Emergency Management works in coordination with federal, state, local, tribal, territorial, private, and nonprofit partners to promote public awareness of local hazards and provide resources to help residents prepare. And whereas the 2025 theme for Clatsop County's campaign is centered on the importance of Clatsop Alerts, the county's official emergency notification system powered by Everbridge, which delivers location-based alerts to residents when their registered addresses are directly at risk from emergencies such as evacuation orders or shelter-in-place directives. And whereas all residents are encouraged to sign up for Clatsop Alerts at clatsopcounty.gov to enter up to 5 important addresses, such as home, work, or school, and to ensure their contact information is accurate and up to date in order to receive timely and actionable emergency alerts. And whereas individuals can also include information about access and functional needs during the sign-up process, allowing emergency planners to better prepare for situations when necessary. And whereas Clatsop County's website and social media channels will continue to serve as key information sources for residents who are outside immediate alert zones but still wish to stay informed. Now, therefore, be it hereby resolved that the Clatsop County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim September 2025 as National Preparedness Month in Clatsop County and encourages the community to join in this observance by raising awareness of alerting and ensuring that they and their families are prepared for emergencies this September 2025. Signed this day, the 27th of August, 2025, Board of County Commissioners. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Vice Chair Banks.
Oh, sorry. I apologize.
Hey, you're too cold to think.
I'm sorry. All those in favor signify with a, it's been moved and seconded, I said that, but all those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Look at me go. Thank you. Okay, somebody did turn the air conditioner off, by the way. Thank you. Whoever that was, it is no longer blowing. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Monica.
Thank you, Monica. I will always turn the AC off. Yes. I was really wondering what was wrong with me there for a moment. Okay, we're moving into business from the public. This is an opportunity for anyone to give a 2-minute presentation about any item on the agenda, except public hearings or any topic of county concern that is not on the agenda. Clerk of the board, are there any members of the public signed up to speak remotely?
No, there are not.
Okay. Is there anyone signed up in person?
No, there are not.
Okay. Excellent. Moving on to commissioners' reports. We'll start with Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you, ma'am. Interesting, when you read the presentation about work sessions or not, we don't take testimony. The water board in my neighborhood reads the part where they say, we don't accept comment from the public. You add, and if the public wants to testify, they can come later. The water board doesn't add that part. So every time I hear you say that, I think about that. That's just in my neighborhood. I think I have a couple of cartoons that I'm not going to read aloud to people, but if you want to see my cartoons, I have a little bit of humor to add to the situation, because I think what we're seeing on a national level, on a state level, and really down to a neighborhood level is a sense of unease and consternation, where it's hard to maintain positive, trusting relationships. And I want to say that I'm committed to doing that, and I know I'm going to fail, because nobody's perfect to be able to realize their ambitions and their intentions. So when I fail, when I'm less kind or less noble or less, will you help me? This is just an open invitation. The tab is open. Help me do better. Help me be the person I'm committed to being, so that we can do that effective collaboration and problem solving together. I mentioned before that I've been participating in this National Association of Counties course in moving from conflict to convergence. And what they say, they have an options model. Other people's, hold on it, OPT, other people's, I'm going to have to look it up. Have to be, basically, we have to take other people into account, other people's needs. Only proposals that include others' needs succeeds. That's options. Thank you for letting me struggle through it. What that means is, unless we're all in this together, we will all fail. And it's not enough to be individual, yet we have to be individuals and do our best and help each other succeed. So I think that's my sermonette. What that does is get me ready to respond to the invitation from my peers at the Association of Oregon Counties, because they've asked me to run to be treasurer of the statewide Association of Oregon Counties, which is an honor. It puts me on the executive committee only for 1 year. For the last year I served, which will be 2026, because my 86-year-old husband is counting the days until my term is completed. But to be treasurer of the Association of Oregon Counties is to help fulfill on Commissioner Erin Scarr's presidential initiative, which is going to be counties revenue. She's going to be looking all over Oregon to help the legislature and the governor and all of us county commissioners and judges and chairs look at the revenue needs all over Oregon, so that we can effectively collaborate And the option that includes everyone's needs is the one that she'll be bringing forth, and I'll be working to support her doing that. I'll be stepping away from being co-chair of the Governance and Revenue Committee. I'll still be talking about money, but in a different capacity. So I'll be going to all 8 district meetings, letting go of some things, sliding in some other duties, spreading thin. But I would say, here's the deal. If you're making phyllo dough or homemade pasta, spreading thin is very good if it's done with patience and love and flexibility. Thank you.
Commissioner Webb?
I think the only thing I have is to report that, the Coastal Zone Management, Association, is reorganizing and re-strengthening itself, and has asked what our priorities are going to be for the next year. And so we're going to work on that collaboratively. I came back to the board in our work session tonight to ask for some guidance. When I represent the county, I like to be representing always the county board. So we're going to talk about what those issues are. The county manager has promised to help, and I hope that the staff that he'll call on all these smart people who work for him to make sure that we're really understanding what our coastal priorities are, and that that we kind of understand what our assignment is for representing those interests of our citizens. So, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you. Just to share, had a meeting with Northwest Senior Disability Services. We're gearing up for contract negotiations. Seems to be always that's something that a group is doing. And so that was our most recent discussion. And had an update with our child care task force, and very happy to announce that 9 entities will be receiving grants for this our number 5 grant cycle. Yeah, so for this grant cycle. It's been a little odd. We can't really go by year per se, because sometimes we drop a grant cycle in the middle just if we see a need. So, but so far, this is grant cycle number 5, and 9 entities are going to be receiving grants. I shared previously that we're out of the preschool child care desert, which is amazing. Great work. I will say, I did request a one-pager from our grant writer, just so that I can share a little bit more specifically about the funds that we are raising, where those funds are coming from, and how much funds are being distributed. And also so that I can kind of trot around with the little baby and make everybody kiss the baby and then hopefully donate. Because all of these grants are provided by donation only through our businesses. And I hope to look at our commission in the future for potentially having a donation again for the child care initiative. So that's my hint to county manager and to Monica. Oh yeah, I see you now. Yes, so anyhow, for fellow board members, I would love for us to consider something in the future to just continue to uplift, because we are an employer also in our community, along with our school districts and our hospitals our hospitals already donate, and other large businesses. And so to consider that for our employees. So that's just a thought process. Maybe we can have a grant cycle, anyhow. But other than that, I'm very excited to attend the Infrastructure Summit in Seaside, second week in September. Childcare is one of the topics, and so I saw that, and I want to go because I want to hear what everybody else is talking about in this state regarding how are they planning on solving childcare issues. Because without care for our children, we can't have steady employment. and a lot of our other local industries suffer. So anyhow, that's basically what's on my agenda for the upcoming month and county manager.
Chair Banks, members of the board, as you know, I've been in and out this week, so I don't have a county update. Hopefully, I'll be back in the office more regularly next week, just fighting a virus, so, but, no update as of now.
Thank you. All right. Moving on to public hearings. First reading of ordinance 2511, commercial property assessed clean energy program, page 13. Gail Henderson.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Vice Chair Banks and Commissioners. The CPACE program is a voluntary assessment program. It is for commercial properties and multifamily residential properties. And back in February, you heard a presentation on this topic from staff at Colpac. And so we've worked with them, and I've worked with county councils to bring you tonight the first hearing for the enactment ordinance that would establish this program in the county's code. And then as it moves forward to second reading in a couple of weeks, we'll also bring forward a separate resolution that would have the program guidebook and the intergovernmental agreement between the county and Colpac. And so what's envisioned with this voluntary program is that Colpac would administer it. They would review the applications, approve the applications, make sure all the documentation is there. The county would sign the documents, which would then be recorded, and ultimately those, the benefit agreement and the assessment and the lien are assigned over to the capital provider. And then it becomes the responsibility of the capital provider to oversee that the installments are paid, and if they aren't, to start a process to collect those funds. So there's minimum work that would be involved for county staff. It's going to be primarily signing documents and making sure they get recorded. And so really there's potential benefit for both the county, for Colpac, and for our commercial business owners. And so we are recommending ultimately that you approve the ordinance, but for tonight, just to conduct the first hearing and then continue it to your September 10th meeting. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, I'm going to have to take us 2 steps backwards and then go 1 step forward. So this is time set for public hearing on ordinance 2511, commercial property assessed clean energy CPACE program. May we have the first reading by title only?
This is ordinance number 25-11 in the matter of an ordinance enacting Title 5, Chapter 5.28 of the Clatsop County Code, Commercial Property Assessed Clean Energy Program.
Okay, excellent staff report.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions of staff? Okay, seeing none, I will open the public hearing on ordinance 2511. Do any commissioners have a conflict of interest to report?
No, none.
Okay. Seeing none, clerk of the board, are there any members of the public signed up to speak remotely?
No, there are not.
Okay. Okay, so I will now close the public hearing on ordinance 2511 and entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that you conduct the first public hearing of ordinance 2511 and continue the matter to the September 10th, 2025 regular meeting. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to continue the public hearing on ordinance 2511 to our September 10th, 2025 meeting and conduct the second reading at that time. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Excellent. Moving on to our next one. Luba remand hearing, Law Duck housing amendments on page 20. This is a time set for a remand hearing on ordinance 2414 Law Duck housing amendments. May we have the first reading by title only?
There'll be no reading for this one since it's not an ordinance, just a hearing. Sorry,
Yeah.
might have messed up the script there.
Yeah.
Staff is requesting that your board continue this item to September 10th. We had advertised it, we had sent out the public notices, but we're still continuing to work with our land use council, and so we would request that your board continue this to September 10th, please.
Madam Chair, if I may, because I'm sitting on LCDC, I don't want to prejudice anything anywhere. So council, I don't know if I'm allowed to make this motion or if I should just recuse myself and ask somebody else, because I think in the case of the need for a quorum, I'm allowed to vote regardless, but I'd rather not make the motion. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's fine if you don't feel comfortable. I don't see any conflict of interest or any issues for you, though. So I think you could feel free to make the motion, but if you don't feel comfortable, then yeah, that's fine.
Why don't you make that motion?
Ready? I move to continue the remand hearing for ordinance 24-14 to the September 10th, 2025 regular Board of Commissioners meeting.
I'm gonna live wildly and second it anyway, based on council's advice, because I think that is allowed regardless.
Do we need a rephrase, or is that okay?
I think that's fine.
Okay. It has been moved and seconded to continue the conversation to September 10th, 2025 meeting. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Moving on to the first reading of ordinance 2512 to amend the Title III, Chapter 3. Am I on the right page? Yes, I am, I think. Okay. To amend Title III, Chapter 316 of Clatsop County Code to consolidate codes Section 3-16 and 328. Make other modifications and adjust the countywide transient lodging tax, the TLT, rate on, so this is on page 22. This is a time set for a public hearing on ordinance 2512 to amend Title III of 3.16 of Clatsop County Code to consolidate code 3.16 and 3.28, make other modifications and adjust the countywide transient lodging tax to TLT rate. I just want to make note that when I'm reading that as a math teacher, I want to turn that into a decimal into the hundreds, and it is driving my brain nuts. So anyhow, continue.
Are you ready?
Yes, thank you. Oh,
We have the first reading of.
may I have the first reading by title only?
This is ordinance number 25-12 in the matter of an ordinance amending Clatsop County Code Section 3.16 and Section 3.28 transit room tax.
Staff report.
Thank you, Vice Chair, members of the board. I made a presentation back on August 27th, I believe it was, or August 13th, I'm sorry, today's the 27th. And I went through it in fairly quick fashion. I think it was probably about 12 minutes. I'm going to take probably about 5 to 7 minutes to go through some of those slides just for the record, give a little bit more background. The sheriff is here to join me, and he will be talking about some of the impacts that we're experiencing with tourism on our public safety community. Just as a brief refresh, the first time that we brought an ordinance to your board for the first reading was in January of 2025. At that time, we set a date specific for the second hearing, and that was after the legislative session, with the idea that we brought the local ordinance right as the legislative session started, and we were going to bring the second reading after the legislative process ended. At that time, the board asked to continue that second hearing, which then we decided to just start the process over again. So this is the first hearing, and then with your board's consent, there'll be a second hearing on September 10th. So just to give a little background on why we are here. So just a little bit about the transient lodging tax. As you know, it's a tax on overnight stays of less than 30 days. It applies to a wide range of different lodging accommodations, including hotels, motels, bed and breakfast, short-term rentals, and then RV and tent sites. It's paid by the visitor, by the lodger. It's not paid by the lodging establishment, but by the lodger. The lodging establishment does remit the tax to us, and as a result, they retain 5% of what they collect for their administrative costs. Within Oregon, there has been an evolution to Oregon TLT. Before July 1st, 2003, all revenue was discretionary. After 2003, 70% is required to be used for tourism promotion and tourism-related facilities, with 30% being flexible and at the discretion of the counties. So newer increased rates post-2003 followed this 70-30 split. So for Clatsop County specifically, we have an unincorporated rate of 9.5%. 7% of that predated 2003 changes. So all that 7% was 100% discretionary. There was an additional 2.5% that was approved in January of 2015, which was subject to the 70-30 split. Part of it's still discretionary, part of it's going with the 70-30 split. And I want to say that this is kind of important as we think about the county-wide rate, is that prior to 2019, which is when the county introduced the county-wide 1 cent rate for the first time, no lodging establishments, meaning hotels and motels, were paying the county rate because there weren't hotels within the unincorporated area. I think that is important because the cities have their own rate, but prior to the 2019 1 cent, nobody was paying into the impacts on the county system. And the county is the home of a lot of the centralized systems like jail, sheriff's office, prosecutor's office. And then, of course, the rural fire agencies have not benefited from any of these to date. I think that is important because there's only 1 cent that is going into the impacts, 30% of 1 cent going to the impacts of tourism on the county system. And the county system is a vital system. Obviously, the cities have their own rates. Some of them predated 2003, some of them were post. They have a lot more cents that are going into both the discretionary side and the 70-30 side. And again, it just reiterates that the county is not getting a rate that would pay for the impacts of tourism on the county system. So we have talked a lot about what the impacts of tourism look like for Clatsop County. This basically shows the overnight visitor day share of resident population. And Clatsop County is number 2 on this metric. What this metric comes from Travel Oregon data. What this really means is that on any given day, there are times where our resident population can go up to 120,000 residents. And I think that ultimately is the challenge the sheriff is faced with, because 120,000 residents puts a completely different demand scenario on our public safety assets.
Okay, so as we've talked before, we know there's certainly a major impact to public safety. In the back of your packet, there's some big tables that show the different arrest rates and citations and vehicle crashes and all that kind of stuff. And that's about a third throughout the year of all of our arrests, bookings, traffic citations, crashes, and that about 15% of all crime victims are from out of the county. I also note earlier tonight on the Traffic Safety Committee presentation, it showed that we have a disproportionate, or we exceed the state average for alcohol and drug crashes. This is old data, but the last time it was looked at, 60% of the DUI arrests filed in Clatsop County were not residents. And then certainly we need to be mindful. We have 11 fantastic fire departments, mostly staffed by volunteers, and they don't have big budgets, and they're expected and required to run as fully professional, full-time fire departments by the state. So we definitely need to support them.
So, as we've been looking at what some of the options are to really address this longstanding funding challenge, as we looked at tax equity, geographic equity, and what it was going to take to ensure service levels. The first alternative that we've gravitated to, and we've talked about this quite a bit, and the long session that ended in June was a focus of our efforts. There was 2 bills that addressed the transient lodging tax at the local level. The first was to change the definition, modify it to include public safety and community infrastructure as part of the allowable use definition for the 70%. The other was a subsequent bill that changed the formula from 70-30 to an allocation of 60-40, which made 60% discretionary and 40% for tourism promotion. So that would have effectively doubled the discretionary piece. Neither bill passed. So we've always said that there was 2 options. One was we were going to try the legislative. If that didn't work, or it didn't get us all the way there, that we would also embrace the local option. So what staff has been recommending is that the county increase the TLT from 1%, which is the countywide rate, to the 3%. It'll generate the discretionary revenue necessary for us to address the immediate public safety needs and to share some of those proceeds with our rural fire agencies. And this is all within your board's authority. We still are working on the legislative fix. We still think that in the short session, there might be continual movement on that. We're not sure exactly what that will be, but likely we will revisit the rates no matter what and make sure that the rates are appropriate for whatever flexibility we might get in a future session. So when you look at what the current rates are, there's a number of counties who are currently at around a 12% transient lodging tax rate. If the board approved a 2-cent increase, we would be at 12.5 average for the county. So Josephine, Multnomah, Lincoln, Benton are all in that same range, with Lincoln, Tillamook, and Deschutes following. You can go ahead. What we have done is we built the ordinance with a maximum rate and the ability for the board to lower that rate with a resolution. That way we can make sure that as we get more flexibility, we can lower the rate and use that discretion to basically offset what we would have otherwise collected through the rate modification. This also combines 2 of the chapters in our current ordinance, chapters 3.16 and 3.28. Basically, it just combines the unincorporated chapter with the countywide chapter. Clarifies use of discretionary funds for new increased rates post-2003 to address public safety impacts of tourism, updates definition of a transient lodging intermediary, and then adds new language, as I just mentioned, to allow rate flexibility. If this was approved by your board, it would be effective 30 days after adoption, but the new rate itself would not be implemented until January 1st, 2026. We need time to communicate with all of our lodging establishment. And then the first revenue turnover to the county would be April 2026, based on the first quarter filings, which would be January through the end of March. I just want to underscore that the county values tourism, but part of being a tourist community is having a safe community that can respond to all the different scenarios that may come up, whether that be police, fire, jail. We want equitable funding and sustainable funding. Tourism is part of our present. It will be part of our future, and we need to have sustainable funding for the public safety system. Again, we are still going to work on the legislative fix, but we're ready to adjust flexibly as we need to, as we move forward. And I think that's all that we have as a staff report, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So County Manager, I raise this issue every time and give you a chance to answer it every time for the record, but I continue to get communication from people who say, yeah, but this doesn't tax the day trippers. But I know you have a response to that. So would you make it one more time for the record, please?
Yes, I think, I mean, so day trippers are a quantifiable, impact on the county and its communities. The issue is right now is that there is not an existing mechanism for us to unilaterally or collectively, meaning all counties, to collect resources from those day trippers. The only revenue source we have with a nexus to tourism, so this goes into that tax equity piece, is that we're trying to have the tourists pay for the impacts of the tourism. And the only revenue source right now that has that nexus is the transient lodging tax. There's been some thoughts that there should be a county-wide business licensing fee. The problem with that is that the county doesn't have the ability to approve a fee within a city. So all the cities currently have business licenses. Business licenses are usually used to cover regulation and enforcement related to businesses, and we don't have an ability, the board does not have the ability to adopt a countywide business license. So I think that there are bigger issues and bigger challenges regarding tourism and who and how to pay for the impacts, but they are systemic taxation issues that will have to be addressed by the legislature. And those are issues that, as we know, that taxation issues can take many years, and this is a here and now issue for the county. We have to address this issue. It's only going to become more of a challenge for us. And so the nexus with TLT may not be perfect, but it is the strongest nexus we have with an existing taxing structure.
I guess we could also add that the 70% that's collected for tourism promotion is not targeting only people that stay overnight. It's really promoting the whole area, trying to make it beautiful for everyone to come in and enjoy, and hopefully they like enough they want to stay.
And I will just share that, kind of back the sheriff up with that, is that, we have mentioned this to the industry too, is that when they spend tourism promotion dollars, they're not discriminating between day trippers and overnight lodgers. What we've said is that that same approach should be, applied to the other discretionary piece. It shouldn't matter if it's day trippers or if it's overnighters. And so that's a good point the sheriff made, is that we just want consistency. And if they were consistent, then they wouldn't raise the issue of the day trippers. So.
Any other comments, questions?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Thank you for this. This was a terrific presentation. You can probably anticipate that we commissioners spend a good bit of our time defending the county's recent actions on this. And because these businesses, et cetera, are our constituents as well. And thank you. This is just, the reasoning here was really, really excellent. Everyone, I've had many, many discussions with restaurateurs, with lodgers, with lodgings, and I think I've persuaded a lot of people with this wonderful logic. We came really close in the legislature, and I for one am going to be. They're going to be on this issue. Is going to be on my prayer list for the long session, and we're not going to give it up. So thank you so much. This has been wonderful. The other issue that I have really appreciated about this discussion is the impact of the cooperation that is necessary in law enforcement among our different entities. And when I've described to people in other places, and even some people who live in Clatsop County, about how a car accident on Route 30 between Clatskanie and Astoria often solicits input from the Clatsop Sheriff's Department, often assistance from several of our rural fire and rescue people. I recently actually went to live near where there was a terrible fatality, automobile fatality in the city of Astoria, and I was able to spend several hours watching the way that was handled by medics, by the city of Astoria Police Department, by OSP, and by the Sheriff's Department, each who brought in their special level of expertise. We do this all the time. We are a collaborative county-wide system, and the fact that that we're not able to support that with the human beings who occupy space in Clatsop County on any given day of the year. And this was just wonderful information. It really was. So thank you so much. And I realize that you've both been to Salem on this issue, and I just want to say thank you. Thank you. This is terrific, fabulous staff and cooperation among elected officials.
Thank you,
So thank you
Commissioner.
so much.
Chair Bangs, if I might, members of the board, I just want to reiterate too that we have ongoing conversations with Orla. We're still having discussions with them. They understand where the county is coming from. We certainly understand where they're coming from, and we look forward to working with them as they put together their own legislative concept moving forward to the next session. So I just want to thank them for working with us.
I too want to express appreciation. I had a wonderful conversation yesterday with a hotelier in our community, and he expressed that Orla was going to be coming to the table, that they were going to be coming to the table with their own legislative concept. What I appreciate is that this has opened a conversation that has not been allowed to be a conversation for a number of years. And it's to our staff's credit that folks are listening, and to your efforts and to your communications with entities in our community, pulling them to the table. And I appreciate in this ordinance the resolution ability later on if our TLT split becomes more flexible or changes. I absolutely dislike increasing taxes anywhere, but understand that our community is built on a community for a tax base of 40,000. We're not built for 140,000, and that is often the number of people we have traveling through our community and staying with us. And I appreciate our Sheriff's Department and all of our rural community emergency response teams. They need to be funded, and this is our only mechanism. So, thank you. So I will open the public hearing on ordinance 2512. Does any commissioner have a conflict of interest to report?
No, none.
None.
Okay, hearing none. Clerk of the board, are there any members of the public signed up to speak remotely?
No, there are not.
Okay, thank you. And are there any signed up to speak in person?
No, there are not.
Excellent, thank you. I will now close the public hearing on ordinance 2512. Any other comments or a motion?
We're going to Yeah.
Yes,
Oh, you need a motion.
I need a motion, yes,
Okay.
please.
All right. I move to continue this matter to the September 10th, 2025 regular meeting for the second reading.
Second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded to continue the public hearing on ordinance 2512 to our September 10th, 2025 meeting and conduct the second reading at that time. All those in favor signify with an aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for doing another presentation.
So Madam Chair, I think this is a record. I think this is the first time that the County Development Director has had 3 items on the agenda with no public input. Kidding. That's bureaucrat humor.
That's
Now that you've said it out loud. All right, moving on. Is there anything for the good of the order? I mean, excellent. I move to adjourn.
And now